Welcome to Break Free from Corporate, the only podcast dedicated to bringing you business success secrets from leading entrepreneurs with one thing in common. They left the corporate world, became their own boss, and are now living incredible lives. To access previous and all future episodes, visit breakfreefromcorporate.com and subscribe today.
Well, hi everyone, it's Gavin here from Break Free from Corporate and welcome to another exciting podcast. Today I'm very excited to have with us Mimi Fong, who has come through quite an exceptional journey. She's going to share her story with us. She left the corporate world at the height of her career, became a mom, started a business, and has gone through so much challenging times and has come out right on top. And she's going to share her story, and she's a real testament to someone who follows their passion, and I know she's going to elaborate on that quite a bit. So I'm very excited for all of you. Please do take some good notes. Make sure you got a pen and paper handy, and I know I'm going to be doing the same as we go through this. And without much further ado, here we go. Here's Mimi Fong. Mimi, thank you so much for making the time to come on this podcast. I'm really excited, for the show and share your story with all of our listeners because you've come from a really interesting background in corporate, and you're going to be able to share all of that with us. And you've started a new business, which is awesome. And I'd love for people to find out, how you made that transition and what you're currently doing. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Gavin.
And please tell us a little bit about where you started from and a little bit about your journey.
Sure. Okay. Well, I started my working career as a lawyer, in fact. So, which can surprise a lot of people because it's so far removed from where I am today. But I'll talk you through that. And to be honest, I think because I was obviously young, just coming. In terms of my life experiences, at that point in time, I wasn't even really sure what it was that I wanted in my life, let alone my career. And, at the end of the day, what I did was I went through a process of elimination to figure out, okay, this will provide me with career stability and security. And what it was also fulfilling my parents' expectations, which was important to me at that point. And, again, probably not unusual for, a lot of young people at that age.
Yes.
So I ended up in the practice of law, and I think I quickly found out that it really wasn't for me. And at that point in time, I was just really going through the motions. I'd get up in the morning and I wasn't happy, and it flowed on to every other aspect of my life. And I guess I was fortunate enough at that age, there was something inside of me, I guess, that kept on telling me that there's more to life out there. There are other things out there that, will actually make you happy. You just need to overcome the fear and whatever it is that's stopping you from going out there and finding out what it is.
Yep.
And I know that from, speaking to a lot of my peers, that they would share, those beliefs or those fears, but for some reason, they just weren't ready to take that step. And it really is a leap of faith.
Yes, definitely.
And I was quite fortunate because, one thing I knew that I loved doing was actually interacting with people. And, the law was quite rigid in terms of its framework. And, I didn't actually enjoy that. And I thought, I started looking for some other jobs and I started interviewing with recruiters.
Right.
And I remember sitting there, one of their interviews thinking, well, I could do this job. This is great. You're talking to people all the time. How hard can it be, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so it just got me thinking. And I thought, maybe I should look at recruitment as an option. But I wasn't quite sure. And again, call it what you will, whether it's fate or just the opportunity came through at the right time. You open yourself up to these things and they present themselves. But a friend of mine told me that there was a recruitment company that was actually specifically looking for lawyers who were practicing. And I was practicing at a top-tier law firm at the time. So again, it's something that you would think, wow, pinnacle of, most law graduates' careers, you should be happy where you are. Most people will kill to be in your position. And yet, as I said, I wasn't happy. So I thought, why not, just kind of go in there and I'll keep an open mind and, chat to them and see what might come of it. And I remember walking into that interview and then, as there were no expectations, and then walking out of it thinking, wow, this is amazing. And the reason why I say that is because the person who interviewed me absolutely loved what she did. And that to me was a completely foreign concept, because up until that point, it was almost like, this is, you have a law degree, so this is where you should be, and you just kind of settle for that.
Yeah.
And not appreciating that you could actually, work in a job or have a career which, you did absolutely love to do. And, so, I thought to myself, that's what I want. And, and despite all objections from everyone around me, including my parents and, my
yes.
and my mentoring partner, and trust me, they threw everything at me. They would play on my fears. They when that didn't work, then they would use the flip side of the coin and say, oh wow, you'd really do well if you continue along this path, and blah blah blah.
Sure.
But there was something inside of me that said, no, this is just not right for you. I was just so unhappy. So it was a big leap of faith that I took, which, to be honest, went completely against the grain of how I've been brought up.
Oh, it's a massive leap of faith. And you're right about this going against the grain, because there's so much expectations, not only from your family, from your colleagues, from people that you've known for, a lot of years. And now you're doing something completely different. So it's like, whoa, hang on a second. Like, where are you going?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was sort of like the practical side of me going, wow, you've worked so hard to get to this point. You've done a 5-year, double degree in law, and, you've worked really hard to get to where you want. And all of a sudden you're like throwing it away to do what? You don't even know whether or not this is going to be, the right move for you.
Yeah, you must be crazy to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know what? I'm forever grateful to my instincts on this one, because, it steered me absolutely in the right direction. And if not for that decision that I made back then, I would not be where I am today. So, I have absolutely no regrets. Every single career move I have made, no regrets whatsoever, because I've followed my instincts. And I think that's really important.
So that's a really interesting thing to say, because a lot of people, everyone has their instincts, but not a lot of people follow them, or they're afraid to follow them because of what's expected of them. So they tend to live up to other people's expectations.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing that I found over the years is when you go down that path and you attempt to fulfill other people's expectations and make them happy, at the end of the day, it backfires, because it is other people's expectations. It's what they want, whereas if this is your life, so, to be honest, there's no way, as far as I'm concerned, there's no way I could have ever fulfilled every expectation that was out there of me, because it's just not possible, because that's someone else's expectations. It's not yours, and this is your life.
Exactly. So they're never going to be, let's say it was a manager or your parents, they're never going to be completely happy with you fulfilling their expectations, because you can't. Like, you're your own person, and at the end of the day, you'd be living a lesser life because you'd not be fulfilled yourself.
Yeah, so, and it's I guess it's being authentic and true to yourself. But I think the biggest thing is overcoming those fears that will come up. Pushing yourself outside your comfort zone, which, for me, is still a challenge. And it wouldn't be human if it wasn't.
Yeah, exactly.
But every time I've done that, I've grown as a person in every respect. Not just in terms of my working life, but also personally as well. So moving into recruitment was such a big eye opener, and I went into a small company that was growing its business. They were an English company, just set up in Sydney, and they were looking to grow their business internationally, and they needed someone to come in and help with that.
Right.
And so I particularly helped in building up the business in Asia, and it was a huge learning curve for me, because, I came in and I was still green, and I was just thrown in the deep end. My manager was really tough. I'll tell you, it was very character building, putting it mildly.
I like that, character building.
I'm being diplomatic.
Yeah.
But she was really good at what she did. This is the thing, and I learnt a lot from her.
Yeah.
And and one of the things which is great about recruitment, it was the perfect transition for me to go from being almost like an employee, in a company, to becoming the business owner that I'm today. Right. Because a lot of people may not appreciate this, but as a recruiter, you're effectively running your own practice. Yeah. Because you're responsible for developing your relationships, whether it be the clients who are, let's say, the law firms, who are recruiting, or, the job seekers who are what we call the candidates. Yeah. And I really enjoyed that part of it. And the beautiful thing is that, because I love what I did, it flowed through to everything else, despite the stresses and everything else, pushing through that fundamentally. I love what I did. And as a result of that, I ended up, being really successful. I was promoted to manager within 18 months, in the company. Amazing. And, within probably in the first year of working, I was working half the hours I was working as a lawyer, and I doubled my income. Wow. So everything flows through from that, from that love of what you do.
So you were operating from the right space, and obviously it probably didn't feel like you were working hard because you were having fun, and you would I be right in saying that you felt like you were making a difference as well?
Absolutely, and this is the key thing for me, I mean, as great as it is to be able to earn a lot of money, for me, it's important to feel as if it's making a tangible difference. You're seeing the direct results of your efforts. And, this is what I guess frustrated me about the law is that, you didn't necessarily see that. Because, I'm dealing with individuals. I'm actually making a meaningful impact on their lives, because I specialised in international legal recruitment, which meant helping to relocate lawyers all around the world to different countries. So I would be talking to them about moving to places like Dubai, Hong Kong, London, into Russia, wherever. And so it wasn't just about, is this the right job for you? Is this the right fit for you overall in terms of your life and the bigger picture? Right. And I really, really, really enjoyed doing that because, that was important to me because, your job is not just a job. It's a big part of your life,
It is. Well, most of us, I mean, and I know even speaking from personal experience when I was in the corporate world, you spend the majority of your life working because it's true. I mean, I can't tell you how many people, wouldn't spend even half that amount of time with their families. You think about it, you wake up and early in the morning, you're rushing off to work. You're pretty much there from about, let's say, 8:30, 9 till, and there's no such thing as 9 to 5 in corporate. So, quite often you're there till 6, 7, 8 o'clock sometimes. And you're around the same people day in, day out. And they're not your family, which is interesting.
That's exactly right. Yeah, you do. You spend more time with your work colleagues than your family.
Yeah,
sadly.
Exactly. Yeah. So, wow. Okay. Well, that sounds like you made a really interesting transition then into that role, and it sort of gave you a bit of a segue into a bit more ownership in the business. And I know you've got a lot of skill sets, Mimi, behind you. Things like NLP and a lot of the holistic training that you've done. Was that something you did after your recruitment phase, or did you kind of have that as a background already?
Yeah, no, I did that after. So basically what happened around August of 2007, actually. So I had, so the last recruitment role that I held, it was a headhunting firm. So, again, I'm drawn to smaller organizations. So, I joined this particular company, to help him build his business up. And his focus was on headhunting. And I'd never actually done that before. So again, I thought, this is interesting. I'm not quite sure about this, a bit nervous about the whole thing, cold calling, etc. Yeah. But again, it was like, okay, I need to push myself outside my comfort zone. So I thought, this would be an invaluable skill to learn, not only, in the work arena, but also in terms of, just general life skills. And so, I did. I went in there and he taught me how to do it and actually helped him to build up the business, become one of the leading, legal providers internationally, for the law firms. And so, but, I was still in corporate essentially. And I guess I'd reached a point where I just, I'm sure, you can probably relate to this or, some of the listeners out there who are still in corporate. It's, for me, it was dealing with the egos and the politics and all the game playing. And I just thought to myself, you know what, as much as I love it, just the environment just wasn't right for me. Yeah. And I felt like I'd lost myself a little bit along the way. So I was in a fortunate position where financially I was very comfortable. And so I thought to myself, you know what, I'm just going to take time off. So I just quit. And took several years off.
Just like that. Okay.
Wow. And I was in my early 30s, which is actually a fantastic time to have time to yourself and to get out there. And I think for me, it was just to reconnect with myself and to figure out again, like my purpose in life and what I wanted for myself, what would actually make me happy. Sure. And this is when I started on proactively pursuing the self-development side of things.
Right.
So, had the time off, but I went and did a few self-development courses, a couple of really interesting ones, some which, included firewalking and all these kind of crazy things.
Oh, you're a firewalker as well. Okay.
I'm a firewalker, fellow firewalker.
Fantastic.
And this is how I came across NLP. So, I was, as part of one of the courses I did, there was a guest lecturer who came in, who was an NLP expert. Mm-hmm. He was an NLP coach. And he just, did a whole presentation around NLP. And I thought to myself, wow, this is really interesting. Yeah. And, what I loved about NLP, and still do, is that it's based on, there's a scientific side to it. But it also, there's the other side of things too, which, again, I'll probably talk about this later, but, it looks at things holistically from the instinctive side. So there's that nice balance. And what I really loved about it was that there were techniques in there that you could apply, immediately and in the moment, which could result in actual sort of tangible results. And that's what really appealed to me about it, because I had been thinking about coaching for a little while. And this was spurred on from my years in recruitment, because effectively what I was doing was I was, career coach and mentor to all of the candidates that I helped with, over the years.
Oh, definitely.
And I thought I'd love to be able to take that to the next level and actually become, a formally qualified coach, and, what tools would I be able to use, what specific tools? And I was, so I spent that time off actually, having a look around and just doing a bit of research around it. And so, NLP was the one thing that struck me. So I did a bit more research, and I ended up doing, as I said, went and obtained my NLP qualifications, and I'm now a master NLP coach and practitioner as well.
Fantastic. Congratulations. Yeah. That's a nice addition to, well, it nicely complements everything that you've been doing, and it's not another bow in another set of arrows that, I don't even know the quote there. Well, it's another string to your bow. That's it. No, that's awesome. And I love the fact that you have continued to follow your instinct and just, develop more and more down this path of helping others, and obviously the coaching side of it, which is now part of your new business, and I'm sure you can tell us a little bit about that soon. But that's all come as a development cycle from your recruitment days.
That's absolutely right. So, so I just see it as a culmination of everything that I've done has been a stepping stone to get to where I am today. Awesome. So, if not for my law degree, I wouldn't have been able to secure for my first recruitment role. And that led me on to my next one, which then led me to taking the time off to explore these options, and then that led me to my coaching qualifications. And then in the midst of all of that, and I decided to have a baby. Yeah, so that also threw a few different things into the mix.
Yeah, I was going to touch on that, because what you've done, firstly, is quite admirable. And, you stepped out of your comfort zone. You made quite a lot of life changes and life-changing decisions with your career. But you did that all whilst, becoming a mum. Yeah. As well. So there's another big challenge thrown in the mix. So
yeah, absolutely. So it's been a very interesting journey, and I just see it all part and parcel of, just adding to who I am, and being a mum, and I'm sure there are lots of career mums out there who can relate to this, and it comes with its own challenges, but also equally with great rewards. Yeah. And I'd always known, I always wanted to be a mum at some point in my life. The question is, at what point would be the ideal time? And I don't think there really is ever an ideal time. And I think particularly nowadays for women, particularly women who, have, let's say, have forged a successful career, and then at what point do they say, okay, my biological clock is ticking, so I need to take time out to have a child, otherwise I might miss the boat. But then if I do, then what happens to my career? Right. Does it just is that pushed to one side? What happens when I want to come back into things? So a lot of considerations there as well. And then when you throw into the mix, setting up your own business,
yeah.
It becomes...
I must say, I greatly admire women just for the fact that there's just so much you guys have to juggle around.
Yeah.
And, it's amazing for the women that do that. And I guess what is encouraging for people listening on this podcast is that, no matter where you're at or what you've done in the past or what qualifications you have or what job you're doing, it can all lead to something if you just follow your instinct and you truly believe that there's more out there for you, because everything you're doing, there's a purpose behind it. There's whether you believe in divine intervention or however you see the world, but you are being guided to something, and you just have to follow that. Everything you've done or wherever you've worked in or whatever experience you have can be used or utilized to help you build something even better or more rewarding or fulfilling. I mean, would you agree with that?
Absolutely, I agree. And when you use the word purpose, that's absolutely spot on, because, I think it's really important to actually know what, and what your purpose is in life and actually follow that, because, and it's interesting because, when I do my coaching now and I actually ask that question of anyone, what is your purpose in life? I often get, a blank look, because a lot of people don't even actually, they're not even aware of that. And it's quite common. And this is where a lot of people can go astray.
Sure.
Because they're almost like are just going through life directionless. There's nothing to guide them. There's no compass to steer them. Yeah. And I think it's important to have that. It's like, and for me, my purpose is being the best that I can be, and helping others to do the same. It's a really simple purpose. Yeah. But that flows into work, so in terms of my coaching, but even as a mother, because I want my daughter to be the best that she can be as well. I would like to help her, to become the best that she can be. And for me too, being a mother is integral to that. So, so it's all about, if everything aligns with that purpose, everything just flows so much more naturally. Yeah. There is less resistance, if any, at all. And just things open up more to you. You see things that maybe you might not have seen before, opportunities that come up.
Exactly.
You're more prepared to push outside your comfort zone, because this is following my purpose in life.
Yeah. Well, everything you said is so true. I mean, I can relate to that, even though, I'm not a mother, obviously, but I can, that would be very interesting. But I can relate to everything you're saying about pushing yourself out of your comfort zone and just taking time out to, to really think, well, what else could I do? Or, am I fulfilled? Am I happy? Because I'll be honest, I speak to a lot of people on a daily basis. I've met people who are retired now and spent, the greater part of their life, 40, 50 years working, and they still don't know what their life purpose is. They still they never ever took the time out to even think about it. It was so ingrained in their work. They were so busy just fulfilling their duties and obligations, and I'm sure they did wonderful work, but they never stopped to think about themselves,
Absolutely.
So
yeah. It's that whole notion behind self-care. It's almost as if we've been indoctrinated or led to believe that it's selfish to actually take care of yourself, take good care of yourself, but it's not, because it starts with you. Your world flows out. You're the center of your own, world. Yeah. And if you take good care of yourself, that will flow out to everything else around you, which includes you being the best you can be for those around you. So, in fact, by doing that, it benefits everybody, so...
Yeah. Well, I think, if you're listening to this podcast now, well, firstly, congratulations, because you are one of the very few people who've even bothered to take the time out of your schedule to educate yourself, just to get a different perspective, and to listen to something like this and maybe hear Mimi's story, hopefully will inspire you, because she's someone who was going down this straight, narrow path, and, I was the same. And I got to a point, and Mimi got to a point, and a lot of others have gotten to that point where you just think, well, hang on, is this really where I can see myself spending the next 10, 20, 30 years of my life? And the minute you hit that question point, you really have to take time out. I truly believe you do. And, just to relook at everything. So
absolutely. And in the end, you're actually saving yourself a lot of, grief in the future and your own time, by doing so, by actually taking time out. It's almost like, when they say, levels of productivity at work, if you actually, let's say, for example, take a lunch break, even if it's only 20 minutes or half an hour, you're actually more productive overall. So it's the same thing when you apply it across your life.
Yeah. And I don't know, Mimi, you would have come across so many people who've gone through career changes and, gone from one extreme to the other. And so you could probably relate to this. I know a good friend of mine who was a computer programmer. earning really good money, but just didn't like what he was doing. 5 years into his corporate role, decided to stop, took some time out, and now he's a maths school teacher,
Wow.
and he teaches primary kids. And he's not earning the same amount of income, but he's a lot happier. His life is a lot more fulfilling. It's funny, and I speak to the guy regularly, and he said it was one of the best things he ever did, because had he continued down that path, he was stressed, he was working long hours, he wasn't happy. Even the financial side wasn't enough to keep him in the game, if that makes sense.
And, absolutely. And you ended up being burnt out, and this is the thing, so really is it benefiting you in the long run? It's not really. So I mean, this is really one of my passions, because obviously, like with my recruitment background, that that focus on career and actually doing something that you love, because this is something that I realized early on. I want to be able to help as many other people out there as I can to actually find the same path and go on a similar journey. And this is why, as you probably know, I've just launched my first online program, which is my dream job program.
Yes.
And it's drawing upon all of these years of experience, through the changes. I've been through 4 major career changes. I've and all the extensive corporate business experience, and just even my life experience, and I condensed this into a really simple, easy to use program comprising of 10 modules. And it's as I said, it's just all about just setting aside some time and sitting down and actually paring it all back to basics in terms of who you are, reconnecting with yourself and your purpose, and then building upon that. And so this program takes you step by step through that, and will help you not only identify what type of job it is that you would love to do, which actually suits your gifts and talents, and importantly matches what you're passionate about in life, and what your values are in life as well, which is what's important to you, but also helps you to put together a career strategy to, enable you to make that a reality. So
Wonderful.
So it's something that I'm absolutely passionate about.
No, well done. And I think that's a really, really good service that you're providing, because if people are listening to this podcast, obviously they're at crossroads, or maybe they're questioning where they're at, or things like that. There are thousands, millions of people in the same bucket all around the world. And I know you and I are on a very sort of similar, I guess, what's the right word? We're on a similar trajectory in that we want to help people make that shift, or be able to make the right shift for themselves. And, I just think if people can be more fulfilled doing what it is they're passionate about, it is my passion to help people do that as well. So that's why I, try and encourage it or inspire people through sharing stories like yourself, to help people break out of that corporate mold. They don't have to be tied down. There's nothing wrong with being in corporate. I think corporate has a lot to offer people, or whether you're in government or you're in some large organization, you can learn some amazing skills. You meet some amazing people. But if you hit a point where that's just not going to be the rest of your life, then you need to look at what else can you do. And and that's where someone like yourself comes in and helps people with that.
Absolutely. And there's a solution to everything. Honestly, if you want it badly enough, there is a solution. It's just a matter of being in that frame of mind, having that level of clarity to be able to recognize it. And then you need that 100% commitment and dedication and trust of yourself to be able to actually follow through with it and actually take action, because I'm a big action taker.
Yeah.
So that's also really key. And sometimes, it can be challenging because there are other external factors that also come into play. And this is where having someone external to your situation can often help as well. Because, when I was going through when I took the time off, I actually also had a coach, and she helped me get clarity around, what it is that I was looking to do as my next step, break through some fears as well that I had there.
Yep.
And that was invaluable to me. So, everyone's different, I respect that, but that really worked for me and helped me to get me to the next critical stage in terms of my development.
Awesome. So you're actually a walking example of someone who, with all your extensive experience, you still needed guidance from someone else.
Without a doubt. Yeah.
Yeah. So, if you're out there and you're listening to this and, perhaps you need to talk to someone, I'd probably encourage you to talk to a counselor, a coach, someone who who maybe has walked the path before you and can see things a little bit clearer, because right now it might be a little bit foggy for you and you're just not sure the direction to take. And it always pays to talk to someone with a bit more experience or wisdom, and just get that guidance and pursue it.
Absolutely, yeah. And you're absolutely right. I think it's important that you've actually been through that yourself. You've walked the walk and you know what it's like, all of those challenges and frustrations, and you work through it yourself. And I'd love to be able to share what I've learned with other people, so they don't necessarily have to go through the same learnings in the same way. They'll have their own learnings from it, but it's almost like reinventing the wheel. Why would you do that?
Yes, exactly. Now, Mimi, tell me something. You've got this business that you've just launched, and it's all very exciting. I know it's going to go really fantastic because you're clearly passionate about it, and you've got a lot of support, and your experience is immeasurable. But you also, you and your husband also run another business. Am I correct? So
yes, that's
and
correct.
you've got a growing family. So how do you balance all this stuff? What is the other business, by the way? And how do you guys balance your time between what you guys do?
Absolutely. Well, the other business, interestingly enough, it's a little bit left of centre.
Okay.
it's called Both Ends of the Lead,
right?
And as the name would reflect, it's a canine well-being and rehabilitation business. So one of my partner's passions is dogs. He just absolutely loves them. Always pretty much had them in his life. And what he does, he actually helps dogs with, musculoskeletal issues, soft tissue issues, just kind of help them to, it's not just about helping dogs with injuries, but also preventative. So it's that whole looking after yourself mindset, but within the canine world. And it's called Both Ends of the Lead because, we also work with the owners, because what we believe is that, often what you find is if you have an anxious dog, you'll have an anxious owner at the other end of the lead. It works on the principle of transference. Like children, dogs can take on emotions from those closest to them.
Right.
So, if you eliminate the root cause at the owner's end, then, that will flow on to the dog itself. And that's also where I come in, because I also offer my coaching services to that business. So as I said, it's fantastic. So what the common theme we have across both businesses, it's all about, health and well-being, your emotional well-being, and, which flows onto your physical well-being as well. Because obviously, when you're stressed, you're more likely to come down with ailments, your immune system is suppressed, and you tighten up physically as well, and that causes you shoulder aches, your back aches, whatever it might be. It's just all a bit of a vicious cycle. So we do that as well. So we are running two businesses from home essentially, which is an interesting challenge day to day, along with, so obviously, parenting our 4-year-old and all the other sort of, life commitments that we have. That is without a doubt, really challenging. But I think like as you alluded to, it's having a good support network around you is really key.
Yeah.
So, we do talk to each other often. We support each other in what we do. Open communication as well in terms of making, shared responsibilities. So, and I think, like even just, and I'm a big fan of, organisation. It's sort of like almost even determining your priorities every day, doing what's important rather than what's urgent. I think that's a really key distinction.
Well, that's a good one. Yeah. So, So help our listeners understand what is the difference between what's important and what's urgent. It sounds to me like they both need to get done, but is there a priority between the two?
Yeah. You do what's important first, and then you do what's urgent next. So, because essentially, if you think about it, everything is going to be urgent, client's going to say, this is urgent, you've got to get this done today or tomorrow, whatever it may be. And there's always going to be something that's going to be there that's pressing on you. But, at the end of the day, when you're doing what's important, these are the things that are important to your bigger picture, to whatever it is that your purpose is in life. And so if you address those things first, you're going to find everything else will fall into place after that. So, I guess it's also a way of also, it's a time management technique as well, as which then flows on to stress management. So, as I said, because the urgent things will always be there. Doesn't matter, what happens. And, I don't know whether you found this, Gavin, but I certainly with me, but it's never ending. It's like,
there's always fires to put out, isn't there? Especially if you're one of those people that's got a young family, or if you're, you're starting a new business or even a new job or career. There's so many things that can go wrong, that do go wrong, but Yeah, the urgent stuff never stops.
It doesn't, and then you also have to ask yourself, is that really urgent? Look
Yeah.
at it objectively. Is
Yeah.
that really urgent? Why is there an urgency around it?
Yeah.
Whereas the important things, that's what's important to you and to your business, so that comes from you.
Okay.
So I think, having that distinction, and that's really worked well for me, because that's taken a lot of pressure off me on a day-to-day basis, I've found. And at the end of the day, if you've got these are the essential things that, I'd like to get done at the end by, the end of today. Anything else is a bonus. And if I get through that, I feel so much more satisfied, fulfilled, because I know, I've done all of this and I'm happy I can just kind of switch off and just, do all the other things that I need to do or, that I enjoy doing.
And then how important is it to actually switch off? So, because that's a key distinction in what you just said, because I know I'm guilty of it, and I still am sometimes, especially when you work from home. It's hard to switch off because there's no boundaries. So how do you do that?
There is, without a doubt. You're absolutely spot on. It's that whole thing of being self-disciplined, because you say, if you work outside of your home, it can often be easy. I'm not saying it is all the time, because you're in a different physical environment to come home. Okay, that's it. Draw the line through the sand. I walk through the door and I leave everything behind me. It works. So when you're actually working from home, lines blur all the time. And and to add on to that, the whole guilt of, like, for me, for example, speaking personally, spending enough quality time with my daughter, and when I'm working, and then but when I'm spending time with her, I'm like, oh, but I should be working, should be doing this. So it's a constant challenge. But I think it's the recognition that, going back to what we were saying earlier, the importance of having time out, that me time, and even, if you're in a relationship, couple time as well is also important, that shared time, because it's what you need to do to help replenish your energy reserves when you're low on energy and fuel, because, without that, that's what results in burnout.
Oh, exactly.
So that's really important, is you do what is necessary. Even if it's just like, it's a half an hour outside, it might be if you're into your exercise, going and doing a half-hour workout or going to the gym or going for a walk to clear your head. Whatever it takes, that might be all you need to help you, switch off and actually, get back into, that sort of calm, relaxed mode, that allows you to actually draw that line in the sand and say, okay, I've done enough for today.
Yeah. Really good tips. Really good tips. I think everyone can probably learn from that, or if you're not currently doing that, that's probably one of the first things that I would recommend you take out of what Mimi just said, which is just, make sure that you do make the time to kind of switch off or replenish or re-energize yourself, because whether you're in corporate or you're in your own business, or it doesn't matter what you're doing, you need to be energized. Otherwise it's easy to burn out, very easy to burn out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great. Mimi, those are awesome tips, by the way. Now, you mentioned earlier that you were, you've got a good supportive network, and you and your partner kind of support each other on a daily basis. Who do you guys, or how do you guys seek support externally? Are you part of groups? Do you have like-minded friends? Do you find that you need to constantly ensure that you are with people that are on a similar trajectory or path that can keep you inspired? How important is that?
Oh, it is. It's really critical, I think, having that external energy that you can draw from. For us, for me personally, it's, particularly individuals in my life. It's not groups per se. Okay. That's just what has always worked for me. So it is what you're saying, absolutely like-minded people, friends, entrepreneurs who are on a similar journey to me. Sure. I speak to them quite regularly, and it's great. Sometimes, I'm going through a challenging moment and I need an outsider's perspective. I'll talk to particular people. And it's just great to be able to, so not only get an outsider's perspective, but, these people who will help keep you motivated and lift you up and inspire you along the way and go, well, wow, they've just had this great win. Yes. And that's fantastic. I'm so happy for them, and that kind of gives you that extra boost of energy that you need to come on. I need to keep on at this and, and continue on, my journey on my path wherever I'm going. So, okay. So that's what's always worked well for us.
So you've got mentors, and you've got people that you either look up to or that have walked the walk before you, and you touch base with them, and obviously this is an important part of your development. So I'm sure you probably recommend to our listeners, no matter what they do, to have people that they can regularly bounce ideas off and
That's right.
talk to. Awesome, great. Um, well, now as we're approaching the latter stages of this podcast, by the way, I'm really enjoying. I hope you are.
Absolutely.
I'd love to now go into this section that we call the rapid response section, and we have a lot of fun with this with a lot of our guests, and this is where I'm just going to shoot a few quick questions off to you, and you just tell me what comes to your mind. It's kind of like shooting from the hip, and yeah, we'll just have a little bit of fun with it. How does that sound?
Absolutely. I'm sure it'll be very interesting.
Yeah, probably learn a few things as well. So, well, tell us, Mimi, what's your favorite mode of learning? Are you an audio person, video? Do you like to read? I mean, what sort of style suits you?
Probably video, and probably the shorter ones. To be honest, due to my time limitations.
Yeah.
But video I find works best for me.
Awesome. It's funny, I ask people this all the time and I get different responses all the time. So it's interesting, video. Okay. Now, tell us something quirky about you. I mean, something that maybe no one knows, and feel free to share.
Oh, gosh, someone that no one knows. Oh, no, you put me on the spot.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe a couple of people might know. It doesn't matter.
I don't know if these are things I can actually share on this podcast, though, Gavin.
Okay.
You might have to edit it.
I might have to.
Yeah, I mean, this is just something more in general. It's just more my personality, I guess. When people first meet me, I come across as quite, so grounded, practical. Maybe this comes from my legal training, very evidence-based in terms of how I look at things.
Yeah.
But then, once you get to know me a bit more, there's this totally other side, which is almost, you could, opposing, but not necessarily, because they do exist quite complementary, thoroughly within me. Yeah. It's that side which we talked about before, about the instinctive side, the more intuitive side of things, where I'm open to new things. So, for example, what I do every evening, to give you an example, there's something that's called Qi Gong, which works off your energy. Oh, yeah. And there are certain exercises that my partner and I do every evening. So it's like a 15-minute Qi Gong routine that we do to help re-energize ourselves and to balance everything again. So that's something, that's...
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. No, that's great. Okay. Now, what about a favorite role model or hero that you have? Have you got anyone in particular?
You know what? I don't really have one particular person, but I do have like a, if you want to call it almost like not really a stereotype, but a type.
Okay.
And this would be, I really admire women out there. And, again, this probably, won't surprise, people who are listening at the moment based on what we talked about. But, women out there who are juggling the demands of being a parent with having a successful career. And importantly, they're still able to stay grounded, authentic and true to themselves. Whenever I come across a woman like that, I just think, wow, take my hat off to you, because, you're doing such a great job, and it's an inspiration to me.
Awesome. So it's more of a group of women that fit that kind of stereotype.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. Now, do you have? And I know you talked about your canine business that you have. So obviously, animal welfare is something that's important to you. But have you got a cause or a charity in particular that you support, or is it across the board, or how what inspires you there?
Yeah, no, I think it really is across the board, to be honest. It's all, any causes that are, sort of helping us. I mean, like on the animal side, we support the Animal Welfare League. So, both ends of the lead is doing, has partnered up with them to do some work with them, which is great.
Yeah.
But in terms of, again, would run towards the theme of any causes out there that, and there are many really good ones that do this, that support women to go out there and just achieve their dreams and, realise that they don't have to settle for second best.
Yeah.
That the sky's the limit, to be honest, and not to listen to what other people say, but listen to themselves. I think, anything that does that, I absolutely love and, always 100% behind.
Perfect. Well done. That's excellent. And that's so in alignment with everything that you're doing as well. So, Mimi, finally, what I'd love to do as we wrap up this podcast is, tell our guests, where do you see things going with what you're doing now with this new business of yours? I mean, have you got a vision, say, for the next few years, where you'd like to take it? Is it just doing more of what you're currently doing, or, what are the plans?
Yeah, well, I mean, certainly to continue to follow my passion and purpose, I think that's really key. Bigger picture, I would love to build upon what I'm doing. Key to what I love is the flexibility and freedom of my lifestyle. And that's always been really important to me from the very beginning. To work when I want to. And obviously having that continued financial stability and security, that's obviously important. It's not the most important thing, but that's obviously helpful. But just doing what I'm doing, because what I do, doing what I love every day, which also supports my own self-development in the process, that's really important to me, and connecting with more like-minded people. So I want to be able to continue that, and wherever my business leads me in that respect, as long as it aligns with that, that's the most important thing to me. And then on the other side too, in terms of being a mother, it's, also being able to be there, be present, to enjoy watching my beautiful daughter grow up and, being an active part of her journey as well. So, so it's having both of those, which is really important to me. Anything that supports both of that, that's really where I want to take my business. So
Fantastic. And talking about your business, how do people get in touch with you if they wanted to explore, potentially your help or guidance in what they're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So they can do it a couple of ways. They can hop onto my website, which is just mimifong.com.au.
Okay.
There's plenty of great resources on there, that they can look at, and a number of sort of different free sort of guides that they can download, which are helpful. Yep. Or otherwise, they can just contact me directly. So again, they can email me. So it's just mimi@mimifong.com.au, or even just give me a call. So I'm happy to talk to them and see whether or not there's the right fit, and to see if there's anything we can do to help each other.
And can you help people that are not necessarily based in your city? I mean,
absolutely.
Okay. Great.
Yeah,
Great.
With technology nowadays, like there are no geographic boundaries anymore. So absolutely, we can use the phone through Skype. So it's not an issue at all.
Awesome. Fine. That's excellent. Any last minute tips that you want to leave our audience before we wrap up?
Just basically, and I guess going back to, there's a particular quote at the moment which is actually quite relevant as well to my online dream job program, relevant to what we were talking about. Actually, there are two things, I guess, which I think absolutely encapsulate everything that I do. And one of them is, if you choose a job you love, you will never have to work a day in your life. And I really, truly believe that, because, based on what we were saying, it's so important that you are happy. And that leads on to the next one, which is happiness is an inside job. So it's up to you. You can, it's your choice in life as to what you do with it. And, it's your choice to be happy or not to be. So, once you have that realization that, it really comes down to you, you're responsible for what happens in your life, it really does free you up, because then you realize, well, I've got choices now, and I'm actually responsible for those. And it's amazing how empowered it can actually make you feel. And then you just think, wow, I can get out there and actually do whatever I want to do. And that's a really powerful shift in mindset, which then can flow on to your behavior and then your results. So I think they're really key things to live by every day.
Fantastic. Well, Mimi, thanks so much for sharing all of that with us. I definitely am inspired after doing this podcast. I always get inspired after doing these types of podcasts, but if you're listening to it, I hope it's helped you maybe get a little bit of clarity, or maybe it excited you to now go and seek out a new direction and get some help or get some advice around what your next step should be. But Mimi, once again, thank you so much for coming on and doing this podcast with us.
It's been my pleasure, Gavin. It's been a lot of fun too. So Thank you for your time.
Fantastic. If you like this podcast and would like to understand a little bit more about what was just discussed, then you're in luck. Simply head over to breakfreefromcorporate.com and we have a fantastic bonus gift waiting for you to download. All we ask in return is that you leave us a review on iTunes and or Stitcher, whichever you use. And lastly, help us share this podcast around with your friends, your colleagues through Facebook, Twitter, Google+, or LinkedIn. We truly appreciate all your support, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode.
Thank you for listening to this podcast episode of Break Free from Corporate. Once again, to access previous and all future episodes, visit breakfreefromcorporate.com and subscribe today.